Hey y'all, today's video is going to be my August recent reads video. In August, I have read 27 books this month, and I am filming this video 2 days early, since there's only 2 days left in the month of August. The first book I read was called Jointed at the Joints, and I gave that book 5 stars, and it's about this girl named Ivy who has RA, and she also has a sister with celiac disease, and they both join a support group for teens that have chronic illness and disability. And she meets this boy who has RA as well, and they slowly end up falling in love with each other. And the rest of the characters in the group have different chronic illnesses. One of them has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and it was a really good read because I learned about their chronic illnesses specifically and how they interacted in the support group, and I gave that book 5 stars. It was really, really good. The next book I read, I have been reading it for a while now, and it's the first book in the Break the Ice series, and it's called Collide, and it's about this girl named Summer who has to work with this boy, and they both are working for the same internship, and they both end up falling in love, and they both and I gave it 5 stars. The next book I read was called The Game Changer by Lana Ferguson, and I gave this book 4 stars. And it was about this hockey player and a baker, and they were, it was like a second chance romance kind of, because they've known each other since they were in childhood, and they end up slowly falling back in love with each other, and it's a brother's best friend. The next book I read was called On the Bright Side, and it's about this girl who went to this school specifically for the deaf and hard of hearing, but that school was being closed down, so she had to move back home and go to a mainstream school, and she ends up having a rocky start at her high school with her interpreters, but she ends up meeting this boy. His name is Jackson, and he has a lot of numbness and tingling in his arms and legs, and he slowly goes through a diagnosis process, and he gets diagnosed with MS, multiple sclerosis, and her mom and her dad, they don't really accommodate Ellie, so she ends up moving out with other deaf people, and her friends end up doing a all sign language meeting for their parents, and it goes better than expected, and I gave that book 5 stars. The next book was called Second Nightstand, and it was about a ballerina and a other dancer. I just don't know how to pronounce the name of that specific dancer. It was average. I gave it 3 stars. The next book I read was called The Friendship Study, and I gave that book 5 stars. One of the characters had chronic pain, and I related to that character in a way because I have chronic pain, and the character was figuring out how to if they needed mobility aids or what else they needed to accommodate their chronic pain. And the other character was neurodivergent, and they were both in a friendship study, and they ended up falling in love with each other, and I gave it 5 stars. It was really good. The next book was called a novel love story, and it was about this girl who lives in a small town, and she ends up literally being in a small town of a book that she likes, and it was interesting. And yeah, and I've read other books as well that I haven't mentioned, but overall August was a good reading month, and I hope that next month will be a good reading month as well.
Speech on pause. Done. Pause.